Hey y'all, Bruxa here. I'm here with Austin Ray from local Teamsters 483. Why don't you introduce yourself? Let us know what the Teamsters is all about.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm Austin Ray, part of Teamsters Local 483, like you said. It's the local down in Boise, Idaho, and so it covers a lot of different shops like Albertsons, Sundries, and now Swissport down at the Boise Airport.
Right.
So,
And how's that been going for y'all?
it was good. It was a long time coming. It was about a 10-month campaign, I would say.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and like, was it a hard fight to get to that point?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it always is. Yeah.
What all it was involved in like that process, if you don't mind me asking, like from like the idea of like, hey, we need to unionize this space to like what steps do we have to take?
Sure. I mean, I would say like there's a simple logic to unionizing no matter when or where it happens.
Right.
The simple logic is you have different interests separate from that of the bosses.
Absolutely.
And so I mean that's something most Americans recognize. They just don't know how to put it into words or into
Exactly.
ideas.
Yeah.
I actually came from an airline company called Piedmont, which was unionized through the CWA, the
Awesome.
Communication Workers of America, and that was my first union experience. And I came from that job after getting fired, looking for another job. Went to Swissport off the recommendation of a coworker at Piedmont because he had been there too.
Okay.
And I went there with kind of the hopes to unionize because I think every place deserves, every worker deserves rights. Every place
Absolutely.
deserves a union.
Yeah.
And then I got a job at Swissport last May 2023 and started my first month talking to people.
Wow.
So
So just right off the bat, it was
yeah.
from your own like you saw how this worked here. Let's implement that here.
Mhm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
yeah, it was a simple logic to it. But like the first things you notice, so if you're an organizer, right, and you go out and you start talking to people, you start kind of getting the lay of the land,
Mhm.
and every place, like a union can address a variety of different issues,
Right.
and so every place is going to have like the big three or the big four, or big five issues, and the big one at Swissport was management. Management was really bad.
Oh yeah.
We had a really, really bad general manager. He ended up getting fired actually by the company because of how bad he was. Which it's bad if the company fires your
No
general manager.
joke.
But that was like the biggest thing, and the obvious bread and butter stuff: pay, vacation time,
Oh yeah.
benefits, all the usual stuff.
Mhm.
But this is actually interesting, and I don't know what your audience is. I don't know if you have people that like want to organize or like unions or
Always a
whatever.
possibility.
Okay.
Always a
Well,
possibility.
this is for you guys then,
Please.
because if you think that workers have to be getting paid like starvation wages in order to go in and organize a union, it's not true.
Right.
We were getting
Absolutely.
paid $20 an hour, so it was $18 an hour plus a $2 graveyard differential,
Mhm.
and it's hard to organize a place making $20 an hour in Idaho.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely is. I believe it. Holy
Yeah.
crap.
And that's starting pay.
That's awesome.
So we were able to organize despite that and get workers on board with the idea that like, well, we shouldn't just settle for like slightly above the industry standard. We should set a new industry standard.
See, that's awesome. That's where you bring change. You see and like recognize that the standard isn't quite there. Where it should be, and you push for it. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So then, how did you get involved with the Teamsters then, the local Boise Teamsters?
It was kind of like, I mean, you have to do like the calculus, like
Oh, for sure.
so like when you start an organizing drive, you got to think, what industry am I in? What am I connected to? And in our case, Swissport's connected to the Amazon network.
Yes.
In Idaho. So that's kind of a whole another level that I think we could talk about
Okay.
because it added
Absolutely.
kind of another layer of complexity to the campaign itself. But, we are in what's called the logistics
Mhm.
sector. So logistics, the industry where you move and transport goods.
Like the backbone of the economy.
Yes. Yeah, like what rubber and steel was in the 1920s.
Exactly.
Because we don't, produce things here anymore. We just transport them.
Yep.
So, but this is real serious work,
Absolutely
and
is.
it's an air hub, so we deal with airplanes. So it's another layer of kind of like complexity and seriousness you have to the job.
Absolutely.
But that was kind of doing the research, looking at other Swiss ports that have unionized, like in New York.
Wow.
Swissport organized in New York. I believe they have an Amazon contract as well. Like Swissport's working with Amazon there.
Right.
And obviously Teamsters is trying to focus on organizing Amazon more
Yes.
broadly, and so I think it was just kind of like a simple sort of math we put together, and it was like, well, that makes sense. Might as well contact the Teamsters. You know?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's how you became involved with the Teamsters. Like now,
Yeah.
do you work directly with them? Correct.
Mhm.
Like your what would you say like your position, if you could call it one, like
Worker. I don't.
worker?
Yeah, I don't. I don't
Okay.
have an official Teamsters position. I'm not on the payroll.
Okay.
I'm just really passionate about politics, and I'm a young person that grew up in the aftermath of 2008 and
Yep.
COVID,
Amen.
and so it's like, where'd your politics come from? You know, are you an organizer? No, it's just poverty, and I
Yeah,
work for a living.
living
And
life in the USA
yeah,
kind of radicalizes you when you're just
yeah,
living.
yeah. It's not even radical. It's just rational.
Exactly. I
Yeah,
actually love that.
yeah,
Rationalizes you for sure.
yeah.
'Cause it brings you down to into the earth.
Very,
Like
very much.
truly,
Yeah.
you know? And so we were actually supposed to have this interview last week,
Yes.
but schedules kind of got misaligned.
Yes,
However, you still went on and had a fundraising show.
we did.
Please, would you mind telling us how that went?
Yeah, so we had so we've done 2 fundraising shows now, and I'm going to be really specific with what I say so people understand,
Please do.
because this kind of feeds into what I call the rank and file strategy
Okay.
within the trade union movement, and I think that's important to touch on. But I'll talk about the fundraisers first. So we had 2. The first one was in Mullet Proof, which is a little hair salon down in Boise.
Oh yes, yes. I actually
Yes.
cleaned their windows. I think.
Oh, really?
A couple of times with an old company. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so the owner of Mullet Proof was kind enough to let us host a performance there. We invited people in Boise, a lot of young people, obviously, punk, grunge kind of stuff.
Dope.
Raised money there. Our most recent concert was at the El Cora Shrine,
Right.
so a much bigger venue. So the overhead was a little bit higher, but we raised a decent amount of money there.
That's awesome.
But I mean, we're in the realm of raising like thousands of dollars over the past couple months.
That's incredible.
Not so originally, the first concert we did was for a strike fund,
Okay.
because when we did the union campaign, the company was delaying. They were using a legal
Right.
trick to delay the election.
Right.
So we weren't yet unionized through Teamsters, so we didn't have the legal protections of that.
Mm-hmm.
So we were, the shop floor committee, which I'll explain later, was very concerned about, are we going to have to go on a recognition strike? Because
Damn.
you can strike for ULP reasons, unfair labor practices, economics, contract stuff, or you can just strike to force the company to recognize you. And we were thinking, if they're using a legal trick to never let us have the vote,
Yeah.
we might have to just go on strike.
Hey, that's a fucking great tool to have in your back pocket.
It's the only tool.
Right. Exactly.
At the end of the day, there's more tools, but yeah.
Absolutely.
So that was like the impetus for the first fundraiser.
Awesome.
But coinciding with the fundraiser and it being really successful, the company ended up losing their jurisdictional dispute with the NLRB.
Wow.
And so basically they were forced to give us the right to vote. We won the election. It was a lot closer margins than we wanted to because of that 3-month delay.
I'm sure. Yeah.
People leave, people get fired, morale goes down because you got daily union busting meetings.
Right.
So 2-3 months of that wears you down. But basically, the fundraisers we're doing going forward is raising like a fund, like a general fund for the
Right.
shop floor.
Awesome.
And that basically helps workers. It fills in where the contract can't.
Mm-hmm.
You can't put everything in a union contract.
Right.
And sometimes it's just workers coming together. So if we can raise a couple $1,000 and, worker Sue or worker
Right.
John Doe, they got an eviction they're dealing with, or they got a car repair, or they got a medical bill, we can take a vote as the shop floor committee. We would meet, a couple times a month
Yeah.
to set aside, $500 or whatever.
Wow. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
So,
It's like an extra safety net.
Mhm.
That's amazing.
Mhm.
Damn. We need more of this.
We need more.
Absolutely.
it's an abnormal thing.
It sure is.
The idea that the rank and file would have that kind of, kind of self-driven passion
yeah.
to
Absolutely.
just take care of themselves. Like, what better way to say we are the union, and the union's not a third-party company coming in and making different rules for us,
Right.
than the workers saying, no, we're the union, we're going to raise money, we're going to fight for our contract, but we're also going to take care of each other. in the meantime.
That's fucking beautiful, dude.
You know,
I
like
love
mutual
that.
aid, like
Absolutely.
yeah.
Damn. So are these fundraising shows going to be like a continual thing for the foreseeable future?
Mhm.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I don't have like dates. We don't have like a
Right.
pattern that we want to set out, but I would say at least like every 2 to 3 months have one of them.
That's not a bad idea at all.
I mean, the shop floor committee, we decided that we wanted to have two tasks, right? We want to put out a monthly newsletter.
Okay.
So that's like a shop floor committee rank and file run newsletter that updates about contract negotiations, teaches about union history, creates a culture at work where we invite people to social events
Yes.
at least once a month.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So whether that's a concert, it's a barbecue. I want to do drive-in movie theaters. We have a bunch of
Damn.
ideas.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, if we stay in contact, I definitely like to get that message out there and get folks
Absolutely.
down there.
No,
So.
see that this is why, I'm more at this point I'm more doing promo and like stuff like that,
Mhm.
and doing these interviews is an awesome way to help lift up the Boise community and DIYers in general,
Mhm.
So this
Yeah.
is exactly what I'm
It was
trying
kind
to
of a
help promo. Perfect timing.
mesh.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
of your interests and stuff. So that was cool.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So no, man. Is there anything else you could tell us about the Teamsters or like how to get involved? Maybe some resource websites or like books,
Yeah,
that more
yeah,
books that
yeah.
you may be able to
Show them that
recommend?
book. That's Brian Palmer. So he's a historian.
I'll
He does a
pro-
lot on the Teamsters.
yeah, I'll probably put a picture or something around here,
Sure,
whatever, so
sure.
a clear picture.
Yeah, buy it on Amazon, I guess.
Right?
I
Or
don't know where else to get it.
local bookstore, who
Haymarket
knows?
Books probably has it.
Maybe, yeah.
There's probably different bookstores, but yeah, I mean the Teamsters it's an interesting union. It's the largest union in the United States, if I'm not mistaken, at least number two. And I think they're interesting because they're strategically situated in the U.S. economy, targeting again like the backbone of it,
Right.
right? Like logistics, transportation, heavy industry. And I think if you're a worker that really cares about the labor movement, and you see the labor movement as like a political agent for change,
Right.
for the working class, I think being an organizer, targeting those industries I talked about, and going through the Teamsters,
Mhm.
The pros outweigh the cons, right? And what are the
Right.
cons?
Exactly.
The cons, like as a young person, and as a person like living in Idaho since 2016, there's a lot of anti-union sentiment
Right.
amongst workers, which shouldn't be confusing because they think of unions in a certain way. They have certain critiques.
Mhm.
And I think as a left-wing person, maybe with more, as a young person, a left-wing person with more militant politics, you actually need to learn to sympathize and understand the kernel of truth
Right.
within those critiques. It's not a complete lie that unions have corruption.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah.
Like any
Other
institution with
organization,
human
right?
beings.
Truly. Yeah.
It's not a lie that unions and their officials sometimes collude with certain interests that maybe aren't in favor
Right.
of workers.
No, absolutely. It's that's one of those things that's like corruption's on a case by case basis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's not like some Looney Tunes like Moneybag,
Right.
big dollar
Oh
sign.
God, no, never,
Yeah.
never is.
No, it's much more sinister.
Mhm.
It's ideological
Right.
in many cases, and what you have to do as a young person is realize you have to adjust the strategy as someone who's in the rank and file organizing for a union to meet the critiques of the average worker
Mhm.
and address the misunderstandings.
Absolutely.
And I think the rank and file strategy does that.
That's incredible.
So basically, we're not just going to workers at Swissport 10 months ago, 12
Right.
months ago saying, hey, let's have the union come in and make some changes around here.
Mm-hmm.
No, we're saying we have all the power in our hands. In our very two hands, we have all the power in the world if only we choose to realize it.
Yep.
Right? And you explain the industry, you explain like the strategic necessity of the air hub. You make workers feel as powerful and as important as they are if we act collectively.
Truly, because like
Yeah.
when you're in those, the maybe considered like the lower rung, working spots, like
Mhm.
you feel beat down all the time because it's
Mhm.
fucking hard labor,
Mhm.
and you feel like, oh, guys sitting in the offices, the fucking pencil pushers.
Right, right, right.
They're the ones making more money. Like, we're
Mhm.
clearly like just these peons.
Mhm.
And when you really do frame it in that way of like, oh well, if we're not able to do this, they have no fucking job either.
Mhm.
Pull the rug out from under them,
Mhm.
kind of a deal. So
Mhm.
yeah, truly, that it really is a lot more of a powerful tool than they realize it. Or
Mhm.
we realize it.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think people shouldn't just jump into things.
Absolutely.
I'm not talking so much about my campaign now. I guess I'm just like making it appeal because like I want more
Truly, yeah,
union
absolutely.
campaigns to happen. But yeah, no, like do your research, do your read your history, read your book from Brian Palmer, read Farrell Dobbs.
Fair enough.
Learn about like the 3 or 4 major strikes in U.S. history in the 1930s and 40s that literally changed history.
Right.
Like 1934, Minneapolis, Minnesota, the Teamsters trucker strike.
Please.
Yeah, so I mean, Minneapolis was kind of like a hub for trucking,
Hmm.
and there was what's called craft unionism was really dominant back then.
Okay.
And craft unionism is basically this idea that each shop and each particular worker in a part of said given operation has their own union.
Right.
So
Okay.
I mean that's is like it's literally what it sounds like. So like there's a trucker and there's meat being loaded onto the truck.
Yeah.
Okay, so the truck driver has his own union. The meat picker uppers
Right.
have their own union. The dude marshaling the truck has his own union. Craft
Wow.
unionism.
Absolutely.
And what does that do? I mean, I'm sure.
It makes them all feel like they have their own huge part in this, economy. It makes them feel like, it's tough for me to describe this stuff immediately, but
Yeah.
please continue.
That's actually an interesting element you brought up, and that's what leads to what I call narrow-minded like trade union consciousness.
Okay.
So when I say narrow-minded, I mean it is this idea that like my specific craft is so important that I am maybe above and beyond like these fucking meat picker uppers or whatever, or the marshaller guy.
See,
like
I
I'm
can
driving
see
this
that.
truck.
I can see that. Yeah.
And so what does that do? It leads to infighting
Right.
within the labor movement.
Okay.
And it leads to kind of like a privileged upper crust, almost like a labor aristocracy.
Wow. Okay.
Where workers maybe aren't looking at each other in the same operation for the same company or in the same industry as the same.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Like my job's different.
Like individualistic rather than.
Yes.
Okay, I see that.
Yes. It's like barely a step above individualism.
Fair.
Because it's just like craftism, right?
Got you.
So like I'm a trucker, me and my truckers, or it's like, but what it should be, and this is like I think part of the rank and file strategy too, is recognizing the importance of industrial unionism.
Okay.
This idea that like we are part of the logistics sector.
Mm-hmm.
We're not just stacking boxes. I'm not just working on the plane out on the ramp. I'm not just working for Swissport. I am part of a logistics industry.
Okay.
Which means if I want real strength and power, because Amazon's lording over us, right? They're lording over Swissport and they're lording over us.
Yeah.
And the fear is that they could pull the contract out
Right.
at any point. So what I say is like expand your consciousness. We need to organize the rest of the logistics sector in Idaho, all the Amazon centers under Teamsters, so we can come to each other's defense.
Right.
Right.
Okay. And would that happen to cover like, because the warehouses are made by Amazon, right?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. So they don't have any real like third party like kind of deal where if a third party from the workers' perspective would be able to say, hey, Amazon, we can't let you use our warehouse anymore. They can't even do that, right?
Well, I'll tell you how it works, and we'll see if
Please.
this makes sense. So, so Amazon at the Boise airport built the building that Swissport employees work in.
Mm-hmm.
So they own the building, they own the land, like they pay the land rent to the Boise airport. The building's brand new. Amazon dumped millions of dollars into it.
Yeah.
They inadvertently also own the trucks, and they also inadvertently control the airplane. But like both the Swissport workers who are moving boxes, the workers driving the trucks to and from, and the people flying the airplane are all separate contractors. So Amazon has 3 different types of contractors doing its work. And so the way, again, this is just another argument for we have to expand our consciousness, right? Yeah, we work for Swissport, legally speaking. but Amazon is practically our employer,
Right.
practically speaking. The only thing they really can't do is like stick their fingers in and start like trying to fire people,
Right.
but they control every part of the operation.
Yeah.
They set all of our standards, all of our performance, like key performance indicators, everything. And so that's how it works.
Okay.
So they own and control everything, but Swissport's the legal entity
Okay.
that
That
hires
is
us.
wild.
Yes.
Okay.
And they do that for a reason.
No, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's why, I can see why it would be important to make sure that the workers understand, like, we are the workers, right? That's super powerful stuff. Oh man. Yeah, no. Was there anything else that you wanted to share about the message?
I mean, a lot, but we don't have time for it today. But yeah, I mean, do your research, do your history. If you know, I would say young people looking for a good job coming out of college, okay, they want a good starting wage. I don't want to, I don't want to suggest to people that if you want to unionize, go into the worst fucking job you possibly
Right.
can.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can cuss, by the way. Sorry.
You're good, man. Yeah.
Okay. But I'm not. Even though those are easier to organize.
Yeah.
But if you want like a good paying job, you want a potential career, go into the logistics industry, try to find a full-time job, and try to organize it. And if Teamsters is overburdened because Teamsters Local 483 is very busy,
I believe it. Yeah.
because of UPS, that's like their biggest
Oh, really?
contract, yeah. And
Dang.
so, if they're too busy, the folks there are really nice. Waltz on in to the union hall, tell them what's up. They'll help you out.
Awesome.
Don't be afraid to put yourself out there, and don't be afraid to talk to workers and to say we need to learn history if we're going to survive.
Absolutely,
That's all
yeah.
we got is education and organization. That's all we got.
Awesome. Thank you,
So,
Austin.
yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah. Thanks,
No,
man.
thank you very much
Yeah.
for taking the time out.
For sure.
Yeah, and maybe we'll do a part 2.
Maybe.
You know
We'll
what?
see.
That would be really cool.
Okay.
You can do some more education for us.
Sure. Maybe when I have more sleep.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you guys very much. Catch you next time. Bruxa out.